One of the greatest challenges that humans face is when we believe we know enough about a situation to have an absolute opinion. And this applies in so many arenas. What's difficult is that we often listen to respond instead of to understand when we're emotional. But then we encounter the slippery slope of whataboutism, and there's good on the other side. A discussion is necessary that enables us to listen and receive information from others in a pragmatic, solution-oriented way so we all can benefit and move forward in a progressive, non-pain-filled way. Hello, hola, buen dia. I think after taking a little more than a month of time away to process personal situations of transition for people in my life and in my own life, I want to chronicle a moment. I was considering asking other people to join a conversation with me, but I'll give them the opportunity to respond, and then they can add to the recording of this, because this is kind of a living document, no edits or anything like that. I want to say before, rest in peace to all the people who have gone before us on this day and all days prior, for whatever reason, if it's for supporting a resolution for a cause you stand by, being or succumbing to the pandemic, or just the time in life has come to an end and you have fulfilled your place, and you have transitioned on to be inspiration, or actually motivation for other people to appreciate life and to go forward. Much love to all of you. If I know you or if you are unknown to me, if you were quote unquote young or quote unquote old, much love to you, your family, as we salute your spirit and the energy that you had in the world while you were here, and the energy that still exists from you in this world now. It's interesting. There's a situation going on across the world. There's protests everywhere in this specific moment because it's most physically close to me. I just want to share some information that I have received. Again, it's important that we listen to understand there are multiple perspectives, and seek solutions. Blame exists, but if we focus more time on blame than finding a way to solve situations, then we have possibly wasted time in a sense. Again, one of the challenges in believing we know enough to have an absolute opinion is that we turn off our ears to other opinions. There's many perspectives, so maybe there are some perspectives that we need to consider. So I'm just reading a document that I saw that's been circulated, and I think is worth chronicling in the life and time of, I think today is the 6th. I don't know what today is. It's May 2021. I don't know what the date is. So what's going on in Colombia? Last week, thousands of Colombians took part in a national strike against a tax proposal from President Iván Duque Márquez. Even though I believe, this is my personal edit, I believe it also comes from the Congress, so we have to also look at the representatives in their legislative body. Although Duque has withdrawn the proposal, mass protests have continued against economic inequality, rising poverty, and government repression. These are issues that are situations in almost every part of the world. We have to be careful and also make the people who represent us in legislative bodies know that it's important to, yes, use your judgment and make opinions and create legislation that you believe benefit all the people, but also listen to the people and provide perspective to the people about why you do the things you do. Honesty and virtue are pretty important, even though that's lacking because in a lot of politics, specifically in political campaigning and elected offices, people use popularity contest mentalities to go forward. So what's going on in Colombia? Protesters in Colombia have been met with police violence and military suppression, and dozens of people have died with hundreds more injured. This is a situation that is very challenging to see. There has been police violence, maybe some provoked, definitely some unprovoked. I haven't personally seen any news, or that's my perspective of military suppression. I have seen military intervention. I haven't seen any news reports about the military attacking anyone specifically, but I'm sure it's possible. So again, your own research is necessary to understand the situation. So what's the big issue? Colombia's economy and COVID-19. Colombia's economy has been hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic, also known as coronavirus. Colombia's GDP dropped by 6.8% in 2020. The numbers are still out for 2021. Unemployment has increased to 16.8%. Colombia's poverty rate has risen to 42.5%, or around 20 million people. And 4 million people are now living in poverty due to the pandemic. This is a situation that is very serious. The world has been affected by this with vast unemployment and governments trying to figure out what to do to actually help the people stabilize the economy and create paths and arenas for the restoration of the economy and to re-employ people. Also understanding that this pandemic has shown that some of the methods or fashions of employment were a bit archaic and we were holding on to them. So there also creates the opportunity for innovation, which does scare some people because some jobs that have or will disappear and may never return again. So there's a serious need for re-education of the masses, the public, possibly the undereducated. So we have to look at the education for current people working and the secondary K-12 system of educating students, as well as the training of teachers, so they can properly educate the students for whatever jobs that will be prominent or available for students. Also, a big thing that is an issue is distribution of the COVID vaccine, the various vaccines, and the apprehension that some people have towards taking the vaccines, questioning science. Colombia is also experiencing a devastating third wave of COVID-19 right now. High infection and mortality rates are exacerbating the economic crisis because you go back to work but you get sick, or people are dying because they're not in good health because they've been locked into homes, not physically, but obviously because of directives that exist. More potential lockdowns are threatening people's job security and livelihoods because while we do live in a quote-unquote modern world, all jobs or many jobs are unable to move to just the online basis. You have workers who work in specific industries that require physical presence of the worker. So we have to be aware of those things and begin to staff those places correctly, and jobs that can either be hybridized or fully online create the pathway. So this creates jobs to improve infrastructure for those things, improved internet, and other technological advances that can help create the bridge into this new methodology and manner of working. So additionally, vaccine rollout has been slow. 3% of the country has been vaccinated, and that's a big issue. We can say, and we can look at the government and say, well, why or what did they do to cause the slow rollout of the vaccination? What have they been doing with the funds? Have they sought to buy patents to produce the vaccine here? Are they buying vaccines from other places? What's the problem? Because there's many places who have excess of vaccines, and so it's about creating a market and allowing the vaccine to be created. Duque's new tax reform jeopardize an already fragile economic situation. Now, again, as the president, the person is always the figurehead of whatever laws come out, right? So, again, we have to acknowledge and recognize the part of the Congress and the legislative body in creating these laws, because presidents very seldom create laws themselves. It's in concert with other organizations, normally their party or industries or leaders in industries that have obviously vested interests in things that are there. Now, to talk about the why Colombians are protesting, on April 15th, 2021, President Duque proposed a new tax reform intended to help the country's economic recovery during COVID-19. The plan was criticized for harming working and middle-class Colombians. The proposed tax reform would introduce new income taxes for anyone making 2.6 million pesos a month, eliminate tax exemptions, increase taxes on businesses, raise taxes on essentials like food, water, gas, and utilities. On April 28th, thousands of Colombians participated in a general strike against the tax proposal. Now, this is the situation because basically taxes were being increased on things that people were paying taxes on already, or maybe weren't paying taxes on. And obviously there are unregulated markets as well. So the situation is with lockdowns and quarantines, people were unable to work. So to raise taxes on people who are unable to work means that you're taking whatever savings they have as well. So if they have any savings, so to increase taxes on things that are not attached to you actually earning money becomes a situation, because the people feel like now you're personally attacking. They already feel that politicians are corrupt and steal from their working wages, but now they're stealing from their saving wages, is the perception. It's understandable that it is necessary for the country to increase revenue through taxes, because tax revenue has significantly decreased because people are not working. Now, it's based on the virus and lockdowns, which affect the ability of people to work and the ability of businesses to function and employ others. So it's a very difficult situation to think of when you do it. I would guess if the tax money that they have now, or to get, I guess, probably secured loan from maybe the IMF or somewhere to buy necessary vaccines to vaccinate the population past the, I believe it said 3%, and get it to maybe 50%, 50% of the population vaccinated. You can then eliminate the quarantines, and then your tax revenue realistically would increase because people are working again. So you have taxable wages or revenues to actually tax from. So if there is also a need to tax the other items, then people can actually afford to pay them. And I think that's what the issue is. So on April 28th, thousands of Colombians participated in a general strike against the tax proposal. These were peaceful strikes, as far as I know, as far as the reporting. There were a few isolated incidents where you see an individual who may support anarchy ideologies and stuff like that created problems, but there were people within the protest who fought against those people and said that they should not do that. They should destroy businesses and things like that. So the people are generally opposed to the destruction of businesses and the infrastructure that is there. So it's a matter of emotion. Although Duque withdrew the tax proposal on May 2nd, protests have continued. Now, the proposal was withdrawn, but this is actually after the president, I believe, was on social media and said that he was not going to withdraw the proposal. So it was sort of a defiance initially, followed by a couple of days of violence and bad press that then led the president to probably say, yeah, they'll withdraw it, even though there's caveats to that. Colombia's finance minister resigned because basically this is probably the primary person that helped architect the ideas based on just looking at the black and white of the situation. Sources. So there are plenty of sources that are there. You can look through NPR, BBC, The Washington Post, Al Jazeera, The New York Times, CNN, Bloomberg, The Guardian, and many other news sites. Please look at multiple news sites to get multiple perspectives, and be aware of the biases that you see. Some people will show the people or the protesters as the villains. Some sites will show the military or the police is the antagonist. But it's very important to understand the situation in whole and understand what's the best measure for the people to protect themselves and to protect the whole, right? So what are the protesters' demands? Economic inequality, unemployment, and poverty has worsened during COVID-19. So yet Duque's proposed tax reform would increase taxes on lower income families because, and I think people tend to ignore this, consumption taxes target poor people or people with less money because the consumption is required by them, by food, water, utilities. It's required for them to do it. So then when they get taxed on their income, it's a challenge for them in itself. I understand a need for consumption tax, but when you raise consumption tax, it does disproportionately generally affect people with less money because it just does. You can look at the numbers and see how that works. It's pretty basic science, economic science. While protests initially called for the withdrawal of Duque's tax proposal, they have now shifted to broader calls for economic equality. Yes, because when he was defiant and the people said, oh, well, you're not going to respect our request just to eliminate this tax, we have other issues we have to complain about. This is why when you listen to respond instead of understand, you tend to get additional resistance to your response because you have disrespected or shown a lack of respect for an opinion. And respect is a perspective-driven thing, but you can understand when you disrespect people. You do understand that. So, protesters are also taking a stand against police and military violence. It is very interesting, just the policing that we've seen around the world and the use of military on its own citizens. It's a very challenging situation to see. I often ask the question, the military and the police are citizens of their country. The military and police have family members that are citizens of the country. While you as a police officer or a military member, if you attack citizens who are peaceful, then what makes you think other military and police officers are not doing that to your family? Your family is not exempt from the actions because they're just faces in the crowd when you attack crowds. I think the military should understand that. They're generally peacekeeping forces, and the police are meant to just sort of make sure you organize and keep peace as well. I was once in the military, so I understand the process and some of the ideologies that people have in the military. And I understand that force is normally their answer because they're dealing with enemies. But when you police your own people, when you put the military against your own people, you have to understand, or at least determine, are they your enemy? Protesters in Colombia are calling for pension reform, healthcare reform, specifically the withdrawal of a healthcare reform bill, education reform, a guaranteed universal basic income, police reform, a dissolution of the military police anti-riot squad. These things are a challenging thing, especially universal basic income, because while people want a universal basic income, it requires taxation of the people. But taxation of the people also requires the people to work and produce something. So we have to make sure we understand the things that are necessary to get the things that are proposed. Healthcare reform, just personal thing. I think if you have basic healthcare for everyone, you can help prevent things like pandemics that exist. If you can have basic healthcare coverage for people. Obviously, pension reform, so people don't have to work until they're 1,000 years old, right? I'm unaware or uninformed about the military police anti-riot squad, but I would guess that they are probably the ones you call when you want to get rough with people, right? So how can you support Colombians? Educate yourself. This is not in the thing I'm reading, but educate yourself. But one, amplify the Colombian voices both in country and internationally. Amplify educated voices. Make sure you understand what you're amplifying. Share. I'm not going to say share this post because, well, I said it, but I'm not saying it. Stay educated and up to date on news and developing events. And donate to organizations and groups providing support for the protesters. I'll say be aware of that too, because some of these organizations have double intentions, and you have to be aware of those things. So beware, be careful. So police violence and human rights violations that people are believing are happening or being accused of is protesters have been met with excessive force and police violence. Police have employed riot gear, stun grenades, and have even been shooting directly at protesters. Some of these are very, very true, and you can see the video footage of it. Some of them are unprovoked. Some of them are provoked, but some of them for sure are unprovoked. And we have to be aware that while the job of the police and the military are difficult, this is where training and looking for resolution in as peaceful, non-lethal way as possible is very important. The United Nations Human Rights Office has been critical of the Colombian police use of excessive force against protesters and threats against human rights defenders. Again, this is a continually evolving and live living situation. Please be informed about your position. You can be conservative and support the government while understanding there's government overreach. You can be supportive of the protesters and understand that some people are actually not protesting peacefully. They're antagonizing and causing it to create victimization. And so we have to make sure we pull those friggin' eyesores out and address the actual need. It is my hope that the people who are protesting create, find, and uplift people within their movement to become candidates and potential and actual leaders within the legislative bodies locally and nationally to help have voices more pronounced in the creation of legislation and the execution of legislation that helps the people. And if there are people that literally come from every economic strata taking part in the legislative body and the creation of laws and the voting on of laws, you'll have a more diverse set of eyes and opinions a part of the legislative body. So laws and the execution of laws can feel like they have been vetted by more than just the haves, because we know that legislative bodies tend to come from people with money, and those people with money tend to either, if they have left poverty, ignore the plights of poverty, or they no longer connect to it. And we have to understand that poverty, while in some places are self-induced, are also systematically exacerbated. We have to make sure we do better for our people. If you eliminate poverty, or at least reduce it significantly, you eliminate a lot of petty crime, you eliminate a lot of diseases, and then you can have new problems that show that the world has advanced past the problems that we keep reliving. Entonces, por este momento, por la gente en Colombia, yo entiendo, en este momento es complicado. La situación es malo. La gente quiere soluciones y no quiere violencia, no quiere luchar, pero la gente quiere sentir del gobierno, escuchar. La gente quiere entender del gobierno, ayudar a la gente con los problemas y con la situación con COVID, con la plata, con muchas cosas. Y yo no creo la gente quiere luchar con policía, con el militar, con todos. La gente quiere sentir feliz, quiere paz. Entonces es importante entender y pensar cómo buscar una solución es bien por toda gente. Entonces yo creo en el futuro, y en este momento la gente tener la capacidad por la paz, pero es necesario la gente escuchar de otra gente y tener respeto por la gente en general. Yo creo en este momento es difícil. Yo entiendo. So that's the information for Colombia. Again, this is a personal archive. I would love for anyone who has an opinion to add their 2 or 3 cents or pesos to it, and understand any language you choose to speak, to voice your opinion is welcomed. I condemn no one. I support no one. I put my opinion out there and say that their reform is necessary, and that's what I do support. And listening to everyone's opinion before a solution is created is vital to show respect to humanity and understand that living in a shortage consciousness produces shortage, but living in an abundance consciousness produces abundance. Wealthy people know that. That's why they make a lot of money. Now, help other people have that same consciousness, and we all can grow together. Peace.